Welcome back to Bright Ideas from Acuity Brands on Industrial Sage. Today, Chrystal Neely, the Director of Communications at Acuity Brands, joins us to tell us how Acuity is focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace, and how other companies can do the same. So, Chrystal, I want to start. Can you tell me a little bit about the MAGIC program at Acuity?
Sure. So to start off, MAGIC stands for Minorities Amplifying Growth, Inclusion, and Community. The acronym kind of speaks for itself, but just to break it down a little bit, when you think about growth opportunities, companies are hiring people of color at record numbers, and you're bringing in these talented individuals, and not only do they want to do their everyday work, they want to continue to grow and develop in the company. When you look at inclusion, people are looking for workplaces where they feel welcome and they feel confident that they'll be able to contribute to the success of the business.
Right.
And then when I think of the word community, oftentimes people of color, they're the only person that look like them in their department, or there are very few minorities in the space.
Especially in technology companies.
Exactly. So being able to have a community of people who have been in your shoes before, who you can have conversations with, who understand what it is that you're dealing with, it's just a good feeling, and it's a very welcoming feeling, and we're glad that MAGIC is able to serve as that outlet for people.
Wonderful. And so MAGIC has been around for about 3 years now, I
Yes, so in November, MAGIC will celebrate 3 years in existence at Acuity, and we just are so thankful for the Women's Network. They shared their blueprint with us, and they also have really just been very supportive of our program. In addition, I want to thank Rick Earlywine. He is our executive sponsor, and he has been a tremendous ally.
So in those 3 years, what have you learned from MAGIC?
Oh my gosh, I've learned so much, but I think one of the major things that I've learned is that it's important to make your voice heard. We have hundreds of members in our MAGIC program, and one of the things that we often hear from people is we want to share our wins with leadership, but it's also important to share our concerns.
Right.
When I think back to spring and summer of 2020, that was a tough time for everyone, but when I really take a step back, people of color were hit very hard by this deadly pandemic that was targeting minorities at an extremely high rate.
Yes.
In addition to losing their lives, they were also losing their livelihoods. So when you think about people losing their jobs, many small businesses
Going under, right.
Exactly. People graduating from college, their career aspirations just halted.
Right.
It's a lot to deal with. Then you add on top of that members of the Asian community who are seeing an uptick of violence because they're being blamed for this pandemic.
Right.
Then I pile on just a little bit more, and we talk a little bit about our election season, where you think about different members of the minority community who are being blocked or prevented from voting or having access to different voting locations.
Yes.
And then I hate to do this, but just to pile on a little bit more.
It was a terrible year. Go ahead.
2020 was pretty horrific.
Yeah.
But then I think back to the African Americans who lost their lives because they were jogging or sleeping or with a knee on the neck for 9 minutes. Those are things that you can't be quiet about.
Right.
And when I think about, was it something that I learned from MAGIC? No, but it really amplified it for me of the importance of having someone who's able to raise their voice. And fortunately for me, I was in a position where I felt comfortable and confident because of all of the support that I get at Acuity Brands, where I knew that I could speak up for people who may not feel as confident.
Right. You all had an outlet to voice those concerns and those thoughts. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those programs and events that you held?
Sure. So just to come directly from some of the activities from 2020, one of the most meaningful programs that I think that we've been able to host in 2020 was diversity listening sessions with our CEO, Neil Ash.
Yes.
So Neil contacted me a few days after the George Floyd incident and said, Chrystal, we need to do something, and what can I do? And I think that that was such a unique opportunity because Neil, the highest ranking person in our company, took time to speak with associates at all levels of the company to hear what it was that they wanted to say, and actually inserted himself into this community. From that event, we were able to establish Martin Luther King Day for our company.
That's right.
We've established a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Leadership Council. We made donations to multiple nonprofit organizations. In addition to those events, we also host a leadership speaker series where we bring in external and internal leaders who kind of share their journey with some of our upcoming leaders. So they're able to take what they're learning from these leaders and apply it to their everyday job. We also have a mentoring program where we take minority candidates in our organization and we pair them with leaders. So they're able to have more visibility than they have in the past. We also try to have a little bit of social events just because
you need a little fun.
Yeah, you have to shake that off sometimes. We need a little fun, and again, for those networking opportunities. We also celebrate various heritage months. So recently we hosted activities for Hispanic Heritage Month as well as Black History Month.
I do remember some of those events. Those were very fun. So it sounds like there's lots of programs that are great and beneficial for the community. But if there was one overarching goal or benefit for any company to have a program like Magic, what would that be?
Sure. So there's actually multiple benefits for having employee resource groups at your company. But I feel that employee resource groups, they empower diversity, it helps develop leaders, and it creates new business opportunities. You want your employee base to kind of match your customer base.
Right.
It helps for you to recruit new talent. It also helps you to retain your current talent. New hires are looking for these groups in the organization because they're looking for spaces where they can feel connected. And your current employees are definitely seeing the value add of these types of programs. In addition, it helps strengthen your relationships with your internal staff, with your customers, as well as some of your suppliers. It also kind of gives you a purview of what's around the corner, so you can be aware of some of the upcoming trends because you have these group of people that are already within your organization. So you don't want to make any blunders because you may not be aware of what's around the corner because you don't have the right people in your organization who are coaching and advising you.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the significance of inclusion in the workforce?
Sure. So what I've learned is that sameness does not translate to success. You want to have diversity at all levels of your organization so that you can also have that diversity of thought.
Right.
You want to make sure that you're keeping your employees connected to things that are going on because, again, you want your employee base to match that customer base.
Right.
And having the right people at the table will help in multiple ways where you're improving relationships externally as well as internally and avoiding certain pitfalls that you may not see coming because you may not have your finger on the pulse. So what I would say is diversity is step one, then inclusion is a vital step two. So not only just a diversity of people, but a diversity of people who you're involving, who you're working to develop, who you're working to empower, and who you're trusting with your business. Research also shows that inclusive workforces help to increase innovation. It helps you with your recruiting talent pools. You are 5.4 more times likely to retain your current employee base, and then it also impacts business very positively. So what I would end on is companies who are focused on inclusion are the companies that you're going to see grow. And companies like Acuity Brands are working to create spaces where the best people can come and do their best work.
Chrystal, thanks for joining us. Those are some really staggering statistics and hopefully inspiration for other companies to do something like Magic and more.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate your time. On our next episode of Bright Ideas, an executive spotlight with the CFO of Acuity Brands.